Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Creative control, creative control. Comedy, art, and sometimes rock and roll. Let's do a public opinion poll. Raise your hand if you love creative control. 'Cause when Vish is unleashed, well, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just working on a tribute song to my favorite podcast, Creative Control, with Vish Khanna. My name is Matthias, and I play in a band called The Burning Hell, but more importantly, I support Creative Control on Patreon, and I think you should too. Quality long-form arts journalism is like a magical talking unicorn. It definitely exists, but it can be really hard to find. Fortunately for us, Vish makes it easy with hundreds of funny, thought-provoking, well-researched and engaging interviews with artists from all over the world. Your flexible monthly donation on Patreon will get you plenty of special exclusive treats and help Vish keep his podcast well-fed and cared for properly, the way a magical unicorn deserves.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today.
Amor, 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 era o que eu tinha para ti. Amor, 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 era o que eu tinha para ti.
Nico Paulo is a brilliant Portuguese-Canadian songwriter, singer, and musician currently based in St. John's, Newfoundland. Born in Toronto, Paulo was raised just outside of Lisbon before moving to Canada with her family and eventually immersing herself in Toronto's music community as a young adult. She's now proudly repping Eastern Canada and receiving lots of love in return. On April 7th, 2023, Forward Music released Paulo's self-titled debut album, which critics and fans have raved about, and it was placed on the long list for this year's Polaris Music Prize in Canada. During and ahead of some extensive touring, Nico and I connected for a lovely talk about things like sleeping in yurts, her family's Portuguese heritage and unique relationship with Canada, how window shutters can tell you if someone wants to hang out or not, the educational value of learning cover songs and the mysteries of the guitar, how love and romance mean more than we think, speaking Portuguese, French, and English, water and Julie Duaron, road work, new songs, other future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners just like you who follow and subscribe to this donor-driven podcast and spread the word about it. And also make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control. That is the primary source of revenue for all the work that I put into making this show, and I appreciate all the support I get. So if you can, head over to my Patreon and support Creative Control today. Thank you. With additional support from Blackbird Music, a wonderful record store with bricks and mortar locations in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, and very friendly people who work there. They'll help you. You go in there, they'll help you. You know what else you can do is you can order things right from their website, blackbird.ca. Say you want the new Nico Paulo record. Just go to blackbird.ca, look it up, see if you can get it sent to your house. They'll ship it to you. It's just that simple. For more info, again, blackbird.ca. Plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee, respectively, in Guelph, Ontario, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 792 of Creative Control, featuring the warm and esteemed Nico Paulo, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Nico. How are you?
Hi, Vish. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you very much. It's very nice to connect with you in this way. Where in the world are you today?
I'm actually just started tour. Left St. John's, Newfoundland. That's where I'm based, and I'm in central Newfoundland right now in this yurt lodge. And I just slept in a yurt for the first time last night, which is amazing.
Oh, well, that's nice. What's it like in a yurt? I don't think I've ever been in a yurt. Well, what's it like in there?
It's these very beautiful. These are made out of felt, like wool felt. They're like very new, and they look very like, I would say, like Nordic. Like the color of the wood is just light enough, and the color of the texture of the wool is also a light color. So and it's very cozy inside. There's this like one opening at the top. It's like a circle, and we arrived pretty late last night. It was like 10 p.m. So it was kind of wonderful to wake up to like a lot of light. But last night before bed, all I could see was this like glowing circle, and it's kind of overcast, so it was perfect.
Oh,
it's kind of funny.
So it's like just open. There's no like, if it's cold, if it's hot, it doesn't matter. There's just a hole in the roof.
No, it has like a dome kind of window. That you can open, but it was drizzly, so we had it closed, and it's kind of cool. You know, Newfoundland is a cool island in general.
Oh yes. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I used to come to Newfoundland quite a bit, at least once a year for the Lanya
Really?
Festival.
Oh, that's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. I used to between like 2013 and I want to say 2017 or something like that. I was there almost once a year, so I quite enjoy it. But I remember it was always in when's Lanya Vanya, in May? No,
yeah,
April?
it's
May?
changed. It has changed a little bit through the years because of weather. They keep pushing it closer to the summer.
Right.
May just happened here.
Right.
So
did you play at it this year?
I did. I actually did.
Nice.
I played at Cochrane Church, now First Light, and it was lovely. It's just a beautiful venue, and the acoustics are so wonderful. And I had a full band and more. There's like one extra musician, Lucas Rose, playing lap steel. So it was very interesting.
Oh, lovely. That's great. Well, I mean, I want to ask you more about the yurt because I'm fascinated about it, but I'm gonna leave it behind because I want to get into you and your work. Unless you have more to say about your yurt experience. My only real question actually is, you're going on tour, and this is, I think you said, the first night. Are you planning to mostly stay in yurts and tents or anything like that, or is this a one-off? Is this just an anomaly?
This was a one-off. I mean, maybe I'll be surprised in the next month, in the next little bit. But so far, this is the only yurt. We really wanted to come check this out. This is my partner's uncle just opened this like lodge hostel kind of vibe, and there's 4 yurts, and we wanted to come and check it out because it's always exciting to have new projects happening in the island, and new things to check out, new areas, new coves, new around the bay. You go and there's just, Newfoundland is just so, it's still kind of a mystery to me. I keep finding more and more about it. Yeah. You should come. You should come with your family and stay here sometime.
In the yurt?
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think my wife is fascinated by yurts. I haven't really explored it too much, because I'm a computer person. I like to be talking to people on the computer all the time. No, I'm not really, but I am. I do want to check out the yurts. Before we leave the yurt completely behind, though, are you playing a show near the yurt, in the yurt? Or are you playing near there, or is this just because you're traveling and you needed somewhere to stop?
Yes, this is kind of like a halfway through the island. So it's I had a bad back, and I was like, I can't do an 8-hour drive. I need to stop somewhere. I mean, not really. We made this plan long ago. We kind of wanted to just like make the driving kind of lighter and visit some people that are not just strangers, and new friends that are also older family members, or I don't know. I find that touring this way is just so much easier. Yeah. Because I'm still new at it, but I love chatting with anyone. So
yeah. Well, you are new at it, I guess, but you're doing very well. Congratulations on this new album. And
thank you.
It's your debut, right? This is your first record.
Yeah. First LP. Yeah.
Good for you. No, that's great. I want to get at something you were saying about exploring Newfoundland. That to me, and I know this for a fact, that you're relatively new to Newfoundland. How long have you been there?
It's been 3 years now, shortly. Moved in 2020, a couple months after the pandemic was getting more and more agonizing, and coming here was just a solution at the time. And it was just safer, and I was working remotely, doing some design work, and music wasn't really happening, and I had just released the EP, and I was a bit bummed. I was like, oh, I wish I could just go play, but then I was like, I can't. So, well, maybe I'll just keep writing new stuff, and then I did. It was just kind of nice.
So, did you know people in Newfoundland, or did you just pick a random spot on the Canadian map?
My partner at the time, he's from here, originally from St. John's. He's a townie, and he had a house, and he was just wondering what that would look like if we moved here for just the summer. At the time, everyone was hopeful that COVID was just going to be something super temporary. So the idea was we still had our place in Toronto, because that's where I was based before for 7 years. So moving here was just like, okay, summertime, let's do it. It's safer. We can still be creative, connect with his family, and make new friends. And then I fell in love with it and with everybody, and I wanted to stay.
Right.
And then I did.
Oh, good.
And we both stayed. And yeah.
That's great. Now, in my personal experience, Toronto, Ontario, and St. John's, Newfoundland, very different speeds as cities, I would say. Did you like living in Toronto?
I did.
Right.
I did. I think I had like 7 years there. I feel like the last 3 years I was already kind of exhausted out, because I didn't grow up in a big city. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to move somewhere where I can stretch a little more and just be a bit more comfortable outside. And, I just find it, I love Toronto, and I love what it offers. I find it's a great city to connect with others. And I discovered so much about myself and about the world moving there at 21. And I just, I had the history of my parents living there in the 80s and early 90s. Yeah. And I was born in Toronto. So there's all these connections that I can't deny. Oh. So I do love that city. Yeah, you didn't know that?
Well, I wasn't sure. You say you were born in Toronto, but you only lived there for 7 years. So I'm just trying to, we're doing a little bit of an origin story recap here. So I'm just trying to follow the chronology. I know you're not 10 years old. I think you're older than that. So I'm just trying to map.
I think I am 10 years old Canadian,
Right.
12.
Okay, see?
Really, 12.
Because you see what I'm saying? You were born in Toronto, but you're new to Newfoundland. You're relatively new to Toronto. So the obvious question, I suppose, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, but the obvious question is, what brought you to Toronto? Where were you before Toronto? That kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's cool. I always assume that people can read my mind sometimes, It's just because everything is just so present for me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I've also been doing a lot of talking about myself, which I find annoying, but I guess it's the only way, because, I have this record and people want to know more about me.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm very simple, I'm not a very complicated person, and I was born in Toronto in 92. My parents are both Portuguese, and then in 94 they decided to go back to Portugal, so I was a baby. I have no recollection of Toronto then. And I grew up all the way to 21 without being connected to Toronto, like physically. So I visited once as a teenager because my parents wanted to show us, both me and my sister, where we were born and where they lived and where they started their newly married life. And that was wonderful, but it was like I I will never live here. At the time I was like, I'm Portuguese, I love where I live. And then 3 years later I ended up moving to Toronto, it was just based on why not. It was my parents gave me that question. I graduated from university in Lisbon. I did a bachelor degree in design, And after I was a bit like lost, and I was like, I'm not ready to continue, academia. Like, I don't know if I want to be have a master's in whatever. I love so many different things. I feel like I need to start working to understand. And music has always been a passion too. So I just wanted to allow myself more time. So I had that big question, like, where do I go? And then my parents were like, you can always go to Toronto. You have dual citizenship.
Right.
They don't talk like that, but that's that wise kind of father, right? And
so you have dual citizenship. But that's still pretty remarkable that your city of your birth is something of a homing beacon, because you could have lived anywhere in Canada. You chose Toronto. I can't help but wonder if the family lineage sort of idea here is important to you. The notion like, well, my parents came here and I was born here. That means I need to go back there to figure out what their lives were like, to kind of, not to retrace their steps deliberately, but it just in a way, kind of, like you were kind of by blood, you were drawn to that city and to maybe experience the same things that maybe your parents did. Does that make sense?
No, it does 100%. I feel like, although I didn't grow up speaking English or really visiting Toronto like regularly, a very big part of the foundation of our family, my parents, me and my sister, is this idea of Canada, and that they started their life as two immigrants, and there is this like heritage of immigration in my family too, like on either side of the family. And my dad grew up in France, and my grandparents still alive, and they still live just 2 hours south of Paris. And I have two aunts and uncle. I have a hard time saying uncle. I often say ankle. Uncle.
I didn't mean to laugh, but that you said it perfectly. When you make it's always funny when someone says I have trouble saying the word and they say it exactly perfectly, and then they say I usually say this. I did it the other day actually. So sorry. Anyway, your English is fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so my dad grew up in France. My mom grew up in Mozambique, and I don't have either of my grandparents on that side of the family anymore. But I grew up with my grandma a lot in Portugal, and so there's this there's this story, all these stories of people trying to find a better life and setting roots somewhere else in the family. And I think for me, moving here was not even complicated. It was just like, oh yeah, we do this. Like, this is totally fine. And I had all the support in doing so. And yeah.
So you went to you mentioned that you graduated from the University of Lisbon. Whereabouts did you actually grow up in Portugal?
I grew up in a small town, 40 minutes north of Lisbon, and like a 10-minute drive to the ocean, like to the beach.
The ocean.
My home.
So this I kind of wanted to get to this because you end up in Newfoundland, and there are some, I believe, and I know some of it is kind of fraught, but I think there's some connections between Portugal and Newfoundland. It is, you're on the ocean. There's a lot of, one of the primary economies has to do with sort of fisheries, I guess. Like there's some, do you feel like connected to Newfoundland in terms of your heritage from Portugal?
I mean, I feel connected to Newfoundland because of a lot of things, mostly because of its geography and how the city is organized and the way people are here. Of course, I do feel like people are like very excited about Portuguese, because of that connection of, before the court moratorium happened, the Portuguese and the Spanish and were fishing in the Grand Banks of Newfoundland and of Canada. And so there is that connection. And I have always heard since I moved here these stories of like the Portuguese sailors playing soccer in the wharf, and the soccer ball would go in the water and they had no trouble and to just jump in. And there's like Portuguese looking people, whatever that means, but there's like olive skin around Newfoundland, and I don't know, like I feel like some people look more Portuguese than I do because I'm such fair skin and I'm taller. I look more like Dutch or Danish or German, than I look Portuguese. But again, that's just, I mean, I do feel connected to this place here because, it's just, it lives by the ocean and from the ocean a lot. And there's the heritage that I connect with and the slower pace. And I don't know, I just love the fact that it's an island and there's this sympathy and this empathy. Like people are very willing to, have you over and help but there's also privacy. It's just like it's a good balance of a lot of things. I feel way more connected to people here than I did in Toronto, and just because people are so much busier in the big city, and we might be a couple neighborhoods apart, and it's a big ordeal to get together in Toronto sometimes because of the fast pace. And that's, I think, what kind of made me a bit tired of, because I love I love like not needing to like text a friend to pop by. I like to like knock at the door, and if you answer, you answer. If you don't, you don't. And I feel like I hear that happens. Like in Portugal, we have this thing. Actually, growing up, it's like Sundays specifically. If you keep your shutters closed, it's like people don't really bother you. But if you have them open on Sunday, often people visit each other. They go for drives or for walks, and it's like, oh yeah, the windows are open. Let's just see what they have to say.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like here it's more like that. If people, you can tell that there's activity in the house, or you can tell that people are, wanting to hang out.
Yeah.
Or not, but there's the option, at least. You don't need to like give them a call before.
So it's a bit more social and friendly and a little less formal. I appreciate that. That's good. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think of Newfoundland as a particularly friendly place in this country, in my experience. I mean, I've only spent weeks at a time there, but and it's usually my main experience and my only experience actually going to that place is for a music festival. So everyone's in a pretty good mood. There's celebratory excitement in the air, I think, but that's been my experience. Growing up in Portugal, well, actually, before we get to that, did you find you had access points in Toronto to the music community? Were you able to play music as freely as you currently are in Newfoundland?
I mean, I feel like Toronto kind of like opened this like industry to me, let's say, like, music can be your pursuit, like for real. And I don't have a background like that in my family. Like I don't come from a family that pursued arts as like their primary source of income or their primary like pursuit. Although my mom is very artistic and she paints, and she can just do her own thing. We spent a lot of time growing up painting together, but she just knows her formula and she still does her other things. But I don't know, there was never a like, you want to be a musician? Okay, let's this is how you do it. Like I never had like someone showing me that. And I feel like in Portugal, the industry was like small, and although I did have a cover band before I moved to Canada, from like a teenage time until like I did make some money, to pay for my Interrail tickets at the end of the summer or something. But I was just, doing it, playing covers, singing in English, learning English, and it was just a hobby. It was never like, oh, I'm going to like get closer to myself and figure out what is this that I have to say. I always felt that I had something that I wanted to explore, but I never really had. I feel like things aligned when I moved to Toronto, and the scene. I remember specifically going to Hollyhock, that doesn't exist anymore, and on Bloor Street, and they had shows there. Sometimes we would go for a coffee, and then the venue would, in an hour, would turn completely into something completely different.
Yeah.
And they had a band set up, and there's a couple bands from 2014 to 2017 that I saw them growing. I saw them, I remember seeing Charlotte Cornfield. I remember this band called Father Christmas that is based in Hamilton now. Like, I remember the Hollyhock singers like Luca, the band Luca, and seeing Bernice. I don't know, there's just like, there was certain pockets of the city that I could go and see live music, and it was not just like an open mic and people playing covers. It was just like, oh, this is origin. People are actually expressing their visions and their minds and their hearts, and I really was like, wow, this is possible. And it was very inspiring. I didn't experience that back in Portugal so much, but I think it has to do with where I was growing up. In timing. It was just like at 20 to 18, I was busy thinking of what kind of design projects I was doing for university, and I don't know, it's just it just all aligned to a certain point. But I think Toronto was like very important for what's happening now.
No, I appreciate that. I want to just ask you about those covers for a moment, though. You mentioned that in Portugal I guess, what were you in a cover band per se, or was it just more like, were you doing regular gigs?
Yes, we were doing, well, mostly in the summer. We even had it was just me and my friend Rita, and we had sometimes Yuri is like this beautiful percussionist, and he would join us sometimes. We had different iterations of the band, but mostly it was me and my friend Rita, and we would we had sometimes we would play for 4 hours, and we would just make €100 each or something,
right?
And then we would be, I don't know, happy teenagers driving my dad's little car. I don't know, it was just a fun time, and it was mostly by the water. It was like beach bar kind of vibe, and we would cover Nina Simone and Amy Winehouse and the Beatles, and it was like kind of some Portuguese as well, but mostly it was English for some reason.
Well, one of the reasons I ask is because in my late 20s, early 30s, I was playing in a lot of bands, original bands, and it came up that someone asked me to organize a cover band out of different musicians for an event. And then we picked all the songs, and then gradually that band caught on enough that it became a regular thing where we would get asked to play weddings and other events, and it was meant to be a lark. It was meant to be just for fun and a one-off, and then it took on a life of its own, and that ended up we earned more money from that than our original bands, if I may. But the weird thing that I noticed, if I think on it, is we started out picking all the songs, and then as we got hired, we wound up doing songs we didn't necessarily choose, in some cases necessarily want to do even, and it began to cater to the audience and the client, I guess. It just got a little less fun. So I guess what I'm asking really is, it sounds like you mentioned Nina Simone and the Beatles and some other people. You were picking those songs. Did you ever find yourself having to play songs that you didn't pick or didn't necessarily like in that band?
I don't think so. I think we only picked songs that we really liked, and there was not a lot of people doing that, or at least two young, women. I feel like most of the cover bands that were around were just guys. It was just a very, very male dominant at the time, and still today. But I felt the people were just oh, these let's do this, let's get these girls, I guess, to come and play. And we did some weddings, and sometimes people would have some requests, but we didn't do that much of that. We were pretty laid back, and we had this cool thing going on with this area in the west of Portugal with all these beaches, and there's a lot of the surfing community is big, and there's a lot of people traveling, and there was a lot of hostels at the time, and so we were fine.
I guess I asked because as much as those songs that we didn't choose weren't fun, often they're the ones that taught me the most about music, because I would never have thought to even think about some of the requests or suggestions in my life, and then you have to learn them, and sometimes they have a certain level of sophistication, I suppose is the word. It just made me play. Up until that point, I was just playing the way I played. I'm primarily a drummer, so I would just play and invent the rhythms that made sense to me for a song. But having to learn other people's songs, I think, actually does, in a weird way, really teach you about the full scope of music. So that's why I'm curious about your cover. I don't mean to dwell on it too much, but
no. I think it's good. I feel like you're asking it. I understand why you're asking. I wonder, like, would you have any idea of like those songs for you? Like, is there one that you remember that was like, oh, this song I don't really want to play it, but
we ended up at one point we started. Someone asked us to learn that Journey song, "Don't Stop Believing." And that became like us. We all were derisive of that band and that song, but anytime we played it at a wedding or an event, people lost their minds. There's a spirit and a feeling to it, and then rhythmically, drumming wise, it's not uninteresting. Like, it's actually, they're interesting parts. Like, for me, on some level, there was a dynamic aspect to it. Or When Doves Cry by Prince was one where I like Prince, but I didn't ever think I'd be playing that song. That has an interesting rhythmic pattern. And I'm sorry, I'm mostly talking. I mean, we used to do an AC/DC medley, and it was my favorite thing.
Oh, except that's so
our singer, we did It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll into Thunderstruck. And eventually one of the guys who sang it was like, I can't do this. It shreds my voice. I can't sing like those two guys. Anyway, but I enjoyed aspects of it. I really did.
Yeah. I'm thinking like what
Magic Man by Heart. Do you know that song? The Heart song, Magic Man? I don't.
Okay. I don't know Heart very. I should get into Heart.
I think you might. A lot of people do tend to like Heart. We take them for granted, maybe, but that song is sort of progressive rock in its own way. What I'm getting at is some of these hit songs that I was like, you don't think you take them for granted. Some of the parts are actually quite interesting. Like, if you actually have to play them. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not really a cover band person. but as a musician, it's a challenge. Like, okay, we have to learn a hit. Yeah. So I assume you felt the challenge, but also the fulfillment of like, wow, we pulled it off. Every time you play a cover and it works out. Did you feel good?
Yeah. I mean, I did. I feel like, at the time I was just a singer, and I feel like I'm primarily a singer now too. Yeah. I only started playing guitar when I moved to Toronto. So the cover part for me, like, I always learned songs just by singing them and being in the band. But I remember there was this one song that I kind of was bummed. It was Sarah Vaughan. It was Lullaby of Birdland. And I remember it was like so hard. I was like, it took me forever to learn how to sing that song, and I can still do it. Like, I still remember it. And I remember at the time how like I would roll my eyes, just like, oh yeah, here we go, sing that song. But now I just feel like, songs like that really kind of, they became like a big part of who I was. There's a Jeff Buckley song, The Last Kiss Goodbye. Like, it was hard to learn to sing that song, but I remember, I don't know, like there's like little moments in your like teenage time being in a cover band, or at least for me, that, really made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
Like you're talking about this now is like making me like kind of like go back in time. It's just like, these are like really ingrained, if you had to soak someone in something, this would be like the juice I would be soaking in, these are the songs.
It's so funny you said something, because in the last few years, I will say I'm a tremendous fan of the Beatles, but I've never learned a lot of their songs. And in recent years, I've been playing, I think because of the pandemic, I've been playing more guitar, and I can feel myself finally in my 40s improving on an instrument that I have always found a little out of reach. I'm starting to learn more how to do it. And I learned the song Something, and I think sometimes, for those who don't know, I don't know what the name or what the terminology is, but Harrison does a thing on that song where he's playing like the progression could just be the same chord, but you're taking away a string, like you're taking away a note. And that's the second chord it's a C. It starts with a C and then it goes to like, I don't know all the names, like a C sus or a C7 or whatever the hell. And you're like, oh my God, he's just playing in the family of chords over and over again. He does it with C's and D, and the D does the same thing where it's like a D and then a D something or other. Again, I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. My point is, the other thing with covers is, for me, and sometimes, I sing to my daughter at night with a guitar, and sometimes she has requests. She'll have heard a song, and then I have to go and figure out how to play it. And I learn about chords and possibilities on an instrument by learning cover songs. Like, I've never, like, some of us who play guitar, we know all the open chords, and you get to know where the same chords are on the neck, with a bar chord or whatever. But just like, you just take a finger away and you've got a whole other chord there, and it's the same. And
it's a completely different,
That's fascinating to me, and I know people listening who know music are going to be like, that's obvious, Vish. But I'm saying sometimes learning other people's songs is a real window into an instrument. A real window into like, that's all they're doing. They're just putting a finger here and there and taking it away sometimes and then bringing it back. That's the whole song. Like it really kind of humanizes music, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I feel like, you're saying all this. I feel like I'm very young when it comes to like guitar playing. I still like am, a green banana when it comes to guitar playing. And I feel like, a lot of the fact that I was just like brave enough to, pick it up and just like, I just learned it on my own. It's just by what I, discovering chords, like some of the chords that people say like they are sophisticated in the record. A lot of that was just like I was just trying and feeling it. I was just like very private with the guitar and very intimate with the guitar, and I feel like that even the way I waltz, the way I like strum it, like all of that was not completely intentional. It was just like a result of like where my mind was and how my body wanted to express in the guitar. And I had a couple pointers at the time from friends. And of course, like, I feel like now having this record out and having this, I'm like more like, this is a thing that I do. It's been interesting in the past, 5 years to like solidify like, this is how I work.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I feel the most excited about, playing and writing songs with that playing. And it doesn't need to be like completely, set in stone. Like, I really want to try new things too. And I guess that's what now I'm like, I want to learn more chords, like I'm ready. And I have the right partner for that now too in Crime, because, band members and people that are part of the project, everyone is like excited to just like keep writing songs, and I love it.
Yeah, one of the running themes in the conversations I've had on this show with people who I compliment about their musicianship or their songwriting, one of the running themes is that I might say, like, how do you do this? Like, how can you be so great at this? Like, how does it feel to be great at this? And almost everyone says, well, first of all, I'm always learning. I'm never not done learning. There's always something about picking up a guitar. Again, I'm talking to people who just seem to know the instrument inside and out, and they say, well, no. I mean, every time I start playing, I'm learning something new about it. And that, to me, is a really hopeful, and you can romanticize this stuff, but I do think that's true of music. Like, it's fascinating what is something you can be playing guitar for 4 hours, and you might be playing the same progression for 3 of those hours and then abandon it. You might just be like, you know what? I thought this was good, and as I play it, I don't care anymore. and then the thing you do in the next hour, that's on your album. Like the thing you just spent the least time on, it's just a weird thing. Like you just don't, I don't know if you're...
It is a weird thing, yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to stick or what's good, and it just sort of happens. Has that been your experience?
I don't know. I feel like, I sat with the guitar and I was going through some like emotional time because I just moved to Canada and I was feeling a bit lonely. I had left like this like cool music scene, cover band friends and like other bands. I don't know. It was just like I was leaving a lot behind.
Yeah.
And then like I'm like alone in this big city, and I feel like I started writing because I was like, I want to still do this and I want to be able to do it on my own. And then being inspired by what the city had to offer, I was like, I think I can do it. I can, when you go to a show and you feel so inspired and you can't even understand why.
Yeah.
You just like have this like pull inside of you. It's just like, I know that I can do this, like that this is what I'm meant to be doing, at least for whatever time. And so I felt that a lot, and I felt that I had to pursue and to discover it. So
Yeah.
I feel like these songs, this record, and even the first EP, they're really the first songs I've ever written. They're like, I don't have that many more. And the ones that I have, they are probably going to be in the next record. And it's exciting. I find I'm very precious about it too. Like, but it has been different. Like every process has been so different. Like
Yeah.
I had this late, like not that long ago, I've experienced the committing, like, and thinking like, I'm going to write a song from beginning to end today. And I actually did it. And it was kind of like I had never experienced that before.
Yeah.
So again, green banana, I'm still a little kid.
Well,
12-year-old.
I think you're ripening quickly.
12-year-old.
I think you're ripening quickly, if I may. I feel like there's a lot of sophistication, for lack of a better term. You seem. Here's what I'll say about this record. You really seem like you know what you're doing. I don't want to put too much on you, but I feel like you've really come into your own. I appreciate that it feels like a learning process for you. It's a beautiful album, and I wonder if we can
Thank
talk
you.
a little bit about what inspired some of these songs. I do pick up on romantic themes, but I pick up on familial themes. I also pick up on, I think maybe contextually, because I know, particularly after this conversation, a bit more about your trajectory. This feeling of, I don't know how to phrase it other than someone who's pondering what it means to live in a place and have a place, have a home, have a beacon that they can count on. So I feel like, if I may sum up, like what I pick up on is, like I say, those romantic notions of interpersonal relationships, the connection to family, and then a connection to a place and a time. I know that some of what I'm saying might be generically applied to almost every kind of songwriting, but is any of that swimming around on this record for you in particular?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the songs are very true to experiences that I had. They're very like close to, relationships or family relationships, not just romantic, like, because romance can be so many different things.
You can have a romantic relationship with your friend. You can romanticize friendship on some level.
Yes, 100%. And that time it's about that. Like time, the song "Time" is about a friendship. But it still feels like kind of a romantic song.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I feel like I'm a very hopeful and optimistic person, and I feel like that really came out in these songs. Some of the lines and some of the topics are actually quite heavy.
Yeah.
Not heavy, but like they are intense. There's like intensity in it as well. But I'm not shy about it. I feel like the way I grew up was, in a very open, community, and like we weren't hidden from like grief and from like the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Like my grandma dressed in black, and she grieved my grandfather since I remember her, and she had no problems in like crying about it in front of me. And and I just feel like I've been around. I feel like it may be a bit different here. I feel like some of my friends in the culture in Canada have been a bit more protected, and I'm generalizing.
Sure.
But there is definitely people find it, I don't know, my friends at least find it kind of refreshing to hang out with me. This is funny to say. I've never said it that way, but I've been told this, that I'm like very open to like express whatever it is that I'm feeling, and I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes there is fear here. And so I don't know, it's interesting that people are enjoying the record. I feel like they can probably feel like kind of held in some way, that it's okay to feel these ways.
Absolutely. And I do think your life, the way you've lived, I think probably gives you a perspective on human behavior and people that not everyone like the fact that you like that everyone has. The fact that you've lived in Portugal, in Toronto, and St. John's. What I pick up on from some of your songs is that I imagine you see universality. You see commonality between the people that maybe we really lost that these days. We talk a lot about how disconnected and fractured we are. Then, for those who haven't heard the record yet, there's this song, Amor, 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 which is beautiful. And how many languages are represented on that song, would you say, Nico?
Well, Portuguese, French, English, kind of, the three languages of my life, of me growing up. Lots of summers spent in French, with a lot of French around, with my family visiting from France or me visiting them in France. Portuguese, of course, my first language, and then English. And I don't know, that song is kind of like a celebration of this immigrating, the celebration of people finding something better elsewhere and wanting to find something better and still connecting to their roots, going back. I don't know, it's kind of like it's there's tense, it repeats too, like it's the same lyrics, the first three verses, just sang in different languages, because I wanted to kind of like, I wanted everyone in my family to understand it. I was like, okay, I'm going to sing in Portuguese so my Portuguese family can hear it, they can hear those words, and then I'll do it in French. I actually called my dad and I was like, can you help me translate this first verse in French? And then he's a mechanic. He works on Autosonic, which is like Dundas and Dovercourt in Toronto. My parents came back to Canada, by the way, after
great.
I was here for a couple of years. So they are there.
Nice.
And they kind of go back and forth, Portugal and Canada now. But anyhow, all this to say, I called my dad and I was like, can you please translate this? Help me translate this. Is this correct? Is it not? And, it was funny because he was like, changing the oil in this car. I don't know. I could hear him work and I could hear him work, but he was there with me and he was excited about it. And then the English. But again, I just wanted to kind of like, this is kind of like a gift, right? I wanted to gift this song to my past, my family, and that's why it came. And then there's this kind of more celebratory, like the song is kind of divided into sections. The second section is more, I don't know, I imagine people dancing. I imagine these like big butts moving,
It's beautiful because, as you say, the verse, so it begins with a Portuguese verse, then a French, then an English, then the second half of the song follows the same order, but they're the same lyrics. So
same lyrics.
It's a really beautiful, inclusive idea of love.
Thank you.
And I think what I'm getting at is, what I pick up on here is, love is also multifaceted. It's not just about a breakup and a relationship. Love is about loving the ocean. Love is about loving the city you're in. Love is about loving people as both platonically and romantically. And I mean, again, these are things we probably all recognize, but I think we take them for granted, that love is this.
We do.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, for a younger person, like, that's an amazing perspective to have on what has become a notion that we either, like I say, take for granted or make a cliche. I think you on this record remind us what love is all about, if I may. I know that sounds big.
Aww.
Does that make sense?
It does. That's so sweet of you. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it comes through because for all the hugging and kissing and dancing and whatnot on this record, I mean, those are all expressions of love. The word love comes up almost on every song. Like it's really a fundamental aspect of this. And like I say, I think you've taken it beyond Hallmark cards and schmaltzy movies. Like I think you're really dialing into it as a foundational aspect of the human condition. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, good. Well,
I love that you're saying all of these things.
well, it's like I say, for a young songwriter to dial into this in such a profound way, I'm just very impressed, and I hope you recognize that this is why people are finding your music so important to them, why it's resonating.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
It kind of blows my mind, it still blows my mind.
It blows your mind that you could come up with these ideas and that they would, affect people?
I feel very like flattered recently. Like I've been very teary-eyed. Like when I hear people approach me and talk about, or sending me text messages or emails, or I just feel very moved by it all. It's overwhelming, actually. It's been interesting after I released the record, because I had a very different idea of what this was going to be like, and now I just feel like people are really connecting to something, and they want to tell me about it. It's just like, I don't know, I was just, making a record and pursuing my art and making things that I love. And it seems kind of like mind-blowing that, I was nominated for the Polaris, and all of this stuff is just like, and you want to talk to me like other people do too. I don't know. Maybe I did something right there. I don't know.
Well, it's the songwriting itself is getting to me and affecting me, but I think it's also the way your voice works. I mean, that's something you were given, and that's a talent you've honed, but it's the combination. Like all music that affects us, it's the combination of how it's delivered and what is being said, and that's what's really resonating with me about your record and your work. So all I'm getting at is, don't be surprised that people are happy about it and complimenting you about it. I think there's nothing else they could say. It is really, really, really great. And I just want. So again, I want to congratulate you on this, and I hope we've. Is there anything more you want to say about the record? I know I've led us into lines of questioning here, but is there anything that we didn't get to, or that you've learned about it as you've talked to people? That you just said some of the things I said are blowing your mind or whatever. But is there anything about the record that you want to convey to people that we haven't got to today?
No, I mean, I feel like whoever's listening, they might, if they don't know the record, they might be like, oh, I would like to listen to this. So if you feel the instinct, just go give it a listen, and then let me know what you think of it after, if you may. But please don't do it on Instagram, because I just find it so dragging. I just can't stress this enough. It's just it's like a job. And I don't really like it. It's like it feels like work, and things get lost in information, and it's hard to reply to people all the time, and I don't know, not to drag this down, but just email me is better.
As you and I are speaking, Instagram just vented a new thing like yesterday called Threads, and it's already.
What is it?
It's their version of Twitter.
Okay.
And if you say you're going to do it, you're trapped. Like, you can't delete it, or you delete your Instagram. It's very annoying, apparently. I haven't explored all this. I just turned all the notifications off because I don't intend to use it. But these days, Nico, I just sign on to things so that I can make sure that if I need them.
Yeah.
My name, like, I have the name I want, and it's under my name, because there's all these. My name is very common in India, in particular. Like, it's a common name. Like, first and last name is very common. So Anyway, that's why I did it, and now I'm stuck with it. Anyway, you're right to think it's a drag. I don't want to end this on a sour note.
No,
but I do think it's a bit of a drag. Anyway, on to brighter things. You're on tour right now as we're speaking.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your future plans and how long this tour is, and whether or not you're working on new music already? Can you speak to those things?
Yeah. Maybe I'll go with the last question. If I'm working on new music already, because I'm always working on something. There's a couple songs that I've been playing enough that I feel like they are going to be songs. Like melodies or like little guitar parts. So yeah, I'm definitely working on stuff and what that would look like and when they will be recorded. I don't know. There's not a lot of pressure. Like, I feel very grateful that I joined Forward Music Group, and Kyle, like, just shout out there here for them, because Kyle has been amazing. You probably know Kyle Kunjak. You do?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
I do. Yes,
and
I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like he's the best. And, it's been wonderful. They put absolute no pressure to, feed, the public or feed the industry. Is just like my own pace, my own time, and just enough support. And so I just feel like I have time to marinate with the new stuff, which is a good thing. And then next question is touring. I'm playing Corner Brook tomorrow, which is at the other end, West End, the west side of Newfoundland.
Yeah.
And then we're taking the ferry. Right now is just me and Adam Hogan in the car, and then we have Catherine Allen from a band, Fortunate Ones. She's joining us for a 3-piece for some of the shows in this tour, and then we'll have a full band for Sappy Fest and for a couple other shows.
Oh, nice.
With Josh Van Tassel, one of the producers of the record, and with Kyle Kunjak, the original bass player in the record as well.
Nice.
So that's exciting. But yeah, we're going all the way to London, Ontario. We're playing Guelph in Hillside Festival in Guelph. We play Toronto, the Baby G, and a couple shows through the Maritimes. There's a whole list of things, but I'm excited.
Full summer.
This
is a kind of full summer.
Yeah, full summer, and then come back to the island and be here for a little bit, play a couple other shows, and then I'm going to Portugal in the fall, and I'm very excited about that.
Are you going to play or just to visit?
Both.
Oh, awesome! Good for you. That's great.
Yeah. Both. I have. I haven't really toured all that much in Portugal since I started this like solo Nico Paulo thing. So I think it's important to start doing that, because it's a place that I will always want to go back to, because my sister lives there. She has 3 kids, and they are the most adorable nephews in the world. Twins, 2 little twins, and then my nephew Arthur. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like I just really want to be part of their lives, and I'm just excited to do that.
Oh, that's congratulations.
I love hanging out. I love hanging out with like younger, like with kids too. I find myself still kind of a kid, and I find it easier to hang out with kids.
Yep.
And I don't know, I feel very present when I hang out with them, and I don't know if life is just a mystery again, and there's all these things to discover, and I love that.
Yeah,
and
no,
I have access to that,
It is fun. I have 2 kids of my own, and as a parent, you end up being like a kid again, just to see things from their perspective. No, it's fun. I appreciate that, and congratulations. That's great that you can. Man, you're going to probably be very proud to be in Portugal and to play. That's going to be. I imagine that'll be an emotional and exciting thing for you to do. That's great.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both. How old are your kids? Like, are your kids young?
One of them is almost 12, and the other one is I want to say 8 years old. Yeah.
8 and 12.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Love
it's
those
fun.
Ages.
No, it's fun. It's really fun, and my son and I play basketball together a lot, and I am starting to worry that my son is my only friend, like real life friend. Well, I don't know. We moved here and I don't know a ton of people and I don't know who to ask to play basketball, and I'll figure it out. But I'm also like 45, so it's like, hey, can you come out and play basketball? Like, I feel like an idiot. So it's kind of fun to just play with my son and his friends sometimes. But I also like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm 6'2". They're all like, 4 feet tall. But I don't go hard. It's just fun. I think anyway, I don't want to get into it. It's fun.
Are you planning to stay over there? Like, will you move back to... You're from Guelph originally,
Yeah, that's right. I'm
Someone
from
was telling me
Ontario.
that.
No plans
Right.
to leave at this point. But you never know. I mean, we moved here, so you never know. No, I'm planning to stay. We're
You
here.
never know.
We're here. Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't know where
that.
there is a good place to live right now because politically everything's weird in Canada. Every
Yeah,
place,
fires as
and
well.
and then climate wise, when we had the smoke here this summer before my Ontario friends and family, so they were checking in, and I think they were
'Cause you're close.
They were checking in to be like, well, I could just pick up like, well, you're in Alberta, so it must be bad because of the smoke. Now they all have it,
Yeah.
and they're like, what the hell? We have it now
Yeah.
too. And I never, in my how many years 40 years in Ontario, we never had air quality wildfire smoke warnings. So everything seems bad. Everywhere seems like not great, I guess is what I'm saying. You just make the best of it. And luckily, we have great art like Nico Paulo's albums and things like that, and that gets us through. And hopefully for people listening to this, conversations like this help you feel like there's positivity.
A little
That's what I
lighter,
hope.
yeah, a little better.
lighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all of your updates and information. If we mentioned that you don't love receiving messages on Instagram, that's fair. If people want to learn more about you and keep track of your work and stuff like that, where would you want to send them, if anywhere, on the internet?
I mean, you can still go on Instagram, but just don't message me. There's a website. There's a nicopaulo.com kind of website with like tour dates and video links, and you can subscribe to all the things that you need to, follow what I'm doing. But it's not that hard, is it, to keep track of people these days?
It isn't, but I like asking. I sometimes this is obvious at the end. People say, well, the usual things. But every once in a while, someone will say something like you. Like, it's hard to keep up with the messages on Instagram. So sorry that I can't. I have the same thing where I'm like, I go into the ones where I'll notice there's like 14 messages from people that I don't follow or follow me even. They just picked up on something. Instagram's weird. They're all weird. Like, it's hard. I wish they were just like, maybe it's my notifications. This is more about me and my telephone. I'm sorry. I'll figure it out and be more accessible. My point here, though, is thank you for that information. If we can go out on a song from your new self-titled album, I wonder if you can pick one for us and maybe explain why it came to mind.
One that came to mind. Maybe Lock Me Inside.
Lock Me Inside. Okay, that's the second side of the record. Why did that one come to mind?
Because I'm inside of a car, maybe. I don't know. I feel like
it's very literal.
I feel like it came to mind because of the yurts.
Okay.
Because the second half of that song, I finished writing it after a silent retreat I did here in Newfoundland.
Oh.
And I am in a completely different place now, but this reminds me of that other grounds where I did the retreat. And I was just looking at these big aspen trees, and I was just thinking, placing myself back there. So that song, I guess, it's what came to mind.
That's a great choice. You mentioned trees. Back to the Portugal Newfoundland connections. There's lots of water. Lots of water on your record. I feel like water.
Yeah.
This song has rivers and seas, and just feel the cold water and clear. This time I'm gonna just feel the water. You have a water connection, obviously. Given
I think I do.
Yeah.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
I feel like I grew up swimming. I competed when I was a teenager.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I do love swimming, but I gave up that early. I was like, I'm not gonna start practicing 7 a.m. and then 7 p.m. It was like too much.
Yeah.
And I was like, had to take a train to go to high school because I did arts in high school. In Portugal, things were different. There was no arts class opening in my little hometown, so I had to take a train to go to this bigger city. And so I didn't really have a lot of time for other things, and I really wanted to go to that high school and be cool, with all the art kids.
Fair enough. No, that's fascinating. Are you familiar with the artist Julie Doiron?
I am, just by name. I have a couple of friends that have told me, like my friend Matt Horseman, photographer and writer from Halifax. He's pointed me to that direction. But why do you ask? Well,
first of all, listening to your record, every once in a while I'm reminded of Julie. Julie will often sometimes sing in French as well. And there's something about the timbre of your voices that is similar. But the main reason I bring it up now is Julie is an avid swimmer. And and also, like, to the point, and I don't want to get this wrong, forgive me, Julie, but I think she's become a swim instructor and also potentially... This is where I feel like that's accurate, and maybe I'm wrong. Someone who knows can tell me. But potentially like lifeguard level swim, like just a very strong swimmer, and she swims avidly. So now I'm like, Nico and Julie need to meet. I feel like you have a lot in
common. I would love to.
Aesthetically, you have things in common, and now with the water, I'm telling you, there's something to this. So... If you can, spend some time with her music. Maybe you'll see some connections. But
I will. I love this. I love tips like this.
Okay, all right. She's a hero and a friend of mine. Someone I've admired most of my life, so I love her music so much. So I think you might enjoy it too. In any case,
where in the world?
Oh, she's in Sackville, New Brunswick.
Okay, so I'll probably meet her at Sappy Fest this year.
Absolutely, it's named after her. She had a record label called Sappy Records, and then they started. Her and some friends started this festival as not thinking it would be an annual thing. I don't think, and then now it's been going for a long, long time. So Sappy is.
Are you gonna come?
Not this year, but I have made treks. When we were in Ontario, we would drive down until we had children, and then the last time we were there. Finally made our triumphant return in 2019. And then, of course, it hadn't really occurred for a couple of years and haven't been back since then. And obviously, it'll be harder. Anyway, no. The answer to your question for this year is no, but I wish. I will be at Hillside, though, in Guelph. So I'll see you.
Oh, you will?
I'll see you there. Yeah.
Okay, so I look for a 6'3".
6'2", brown man. I'll be the only 6'2" brown man at Hillside. I guarantee it. No, I'm just kidding.
Will your kids be there too?
Yeah. We're all gonna try to make it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this. This is great.
Yeah. Okay. It'll be fun. Yeah, I can't wait to see
Looking forward to it. Yes.
This is me too. This is "Lock Me Inside" by Nico Paulo. Nico, thank you so much for spending time with me. It was really special for me and an honor. So thank you, and best luck with Polaris and everything else, your road trips there, you're traveling, and I hope we talk again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Lock me inside. I'm tired of being lonely. The more that I try, the more I get the feeling. It's time I go down. It's time I go down. Lock me inside. Arrest me to my own mind. The more that I try, the more I get this feeling.
Well, that was fun for me. I hope it was fun for Nico Paulo. Nico, thank you so much for appearing on this, the 792nd episode of Creative Control. For everyone else, for your information, this show is part of the Entertainment One Podcast Network and is available wherever it is you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode that you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. You can currently like Creative Control on Facebook or currently follow the show on Twitter, which apparently has a new name, at Vish Creative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and Instagram at Vishkhanna. We're not calling it X, are we? You and me? We're not going to do that. Also, please visit my Patreon, patreon.com/Creative Control, to make a flexible monthly donation to keep this podcast going. $6 American or more grants you access to exclusive content. You get episodes earlier than everybody else. And as usual, if you're interested in receiving a Creative Control t-shirt as a little show of gratitude from me, just message me on Patreon with your size preference and design preference. I got the burgundy or maroon, I never know the difference, and yellow. There's that one, and still have some sizes left in those. So happy to send you one if you send me a note on Patreon after you've made your support known, that kind of thing. Thank you. Thank you for considering doing that. And again, learn more at patreon.com/Creative Control. Thanks again to the wonderful Alberta record store Blackbird Music. They've got locations in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, but you can learn more about them and order records directly to your house there. They'll ship them to you at their website. Just you can learn more at their website, blackbird.ca. Also want to thank Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton for their in-kind support for this show. You can learn more about those places. I hyperlinked. I use the hyperlinks in the show notes. You click on those and you can learn more about those places. Also want to thank Jim Guthrie for letting me use music he makes on the show. Sometimes I use it. And you can learn more about him at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you for you right now listening. Thank you for listening to this episode with Nico Paulo. I hope you enjoyed it and learned about Nico, and will consider checking out her music and also subscribing to this podcast or following it and letting your friends know that they should maybe do the same things. That helps spread the word about the show and find new people, and I like doing that. So thanks for all your efforts in supporting Creative Control. I must leave you now, but I will talk to you very soon. I hope you're well. Bye for now.